Hi guys, welcome to episode 7 of our Mortal Realms review series. In a surprising turn that I'm sure shocked absolutely nobody, we're reviewing issue 7. I'm Wargamer Dad and this is Wargamer Daughter.
Hello.
No models for this issue, just 2 paints, so let's open it up and have a look at that. Can't open it. I get loads of stuff later. We have to catch up with you. We compared models, didn't we?
Lots and lots of stuff.
Right, this issue we've got Reikland Flesh Shade, which is £4.75, and a Stormhost Silver, which is £3.70 on GW's website. So that works out at £8.45. So you're saving 46 pence. Woo! If you really need these colours, go and buy a load of them. Both these colours, I think, are going to be heavily used on the Stormhosts rather than my brain has just failed completely. Rather than the undead. Okay, let's dive straight in on the issue. Feels quite thick, this one actually, but yeah. Page 1, thick. As always, signed by Ian, Herald of Nagash himself. Go straight into the Heavenly Host, which are basically different colour schemes for your Stormcasts, and he gives a little brief description of each of them. Every Stormcast host has bled in the service of Sigmar. Some have established themselves as legends and are well known and revered even by mortals they fight to protect. Others, newly forged, keen to make their name by battling the enemies of Sigmar with hammer and spell. Regardless of the colours they wear, these mighty warriors stand ready to fight the enemies of Order wherever they might be. Basically, there's loads of them, and there's room to make any more. The Stormcast Eternals are kind of heavily based on the Space Marine ideologies from 40k, in that they were designed to be heavily sort of customizable in the background, so you could really make them to present whatever you wanted. The backgrounds are far more open in them. You know what they are, you know where they've come from, but they can be modified to suit what you like. Unless what you like is undead, in which case, you blame their own characters. Although they have been raised from death, so technically they might be classed as undead. We've got several Stormhosts here. You've got the Sigmarite Brotherhood, who were recruited from the metallic lands of Chamon. This Stormhost is known for its ever-advancing steel walls and strict discipline of its infantry, or the Knights of Azir. The Knights of Azir believe they should know their prey as well as themselves. This knowledge of their foes often means they have won battle before blades are drawn, so that's all cool there. I won't read them all out, you guys can have a look at them. Got some more awesome artwork there. Celestial Vindicators are known to fight with a terrifying fury, tearing their foes apart. I almost said terrifying furry, but that's just my mate Kev. Right, do you want to read
Rites of Reforging. When a
Speak up.
When a Stormcast Eternal is slain, they are not truly lost. Their souls flash upward to Azir. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Back to Sigmar's vaults. In time, it will be reforged to join the fight once more.
It's worth noting they lose a bit every time they do that, so it still has a consequence, and a fairly heavily undesirable one, with some of the older Stormcasts barely remembering what they are, just becoming these sort of instinctual fighting machines. But every time a Stormcast dies, it goes back, it's remade, and it comes back out again and fights again, so they don't really lose their numbers too heavily. And this goes through that. So there's two different bits there. There's two fairly dark pictures of Sigmarites there. Garrus Direblade. The Celestial Vindicators rely upon furious assaults to win the day. Their warriors charge the battle with little thought for their own safety. This strategy is often effective, but leads to many casualties. Garrus Direblade has died no less than 5 times in service of Sigmar. With each death, his fury has only grown, and his recklessness in battle has increased. With it. With each reforging, his sunken eyes and battle-scarred face twisted further by the anger that boils within his soul. He speaks rarely, only finding his voice in combat, where guttural battle cries are heard above the furious din of battle. Well, so the more he's reforged, the more of an animalistic creature he's becoming, so that's sad. And then we've got Dahlia Sorrow Shield. The Anvils of Helmhammer are no strangers to death, as they hail from Shaiish. Dahlia's Sorrow Shield has experienced death on many occasions. She has fallen to the swing of the sword. With every forging, a toll is taken both on her body and spirit. Her flesh has powdered to the colour of a recently slain corpse, and her mood has become far darker. Her voice little more than a whispering death rattle. She still fights with the same skill and discipline as before, determined to do so until her soul is damaged beyond repair.
You missed out 2 lines.
Yeah, but I didn't want to Plus, they'll read it at home, you know.
Yeah.
We're just doing a review. So it gives you very much an idea that there is a certain sort of loss and undeath. And this is supposedly because every time they die, Nagash takes a bit of their soul. Or supposedly even some of the ogre tribes have learned to intercept Sigmarite souls and eat them. In this, we've looking at the realms of chaos. Do you want to read the blurb on that one?
The blurb.
So the Age of Chaos
found its way into the mortal realms through the tiniest cracks. You said touch there, so my brain went and did the wrong thing. After Sigmar's defeat at the Battle of the Burning Skies, the forces of chaos spread rapidly across the realm. Speaking is not my forte tonight.
Yep.
As the centuries passed, the lands twisted into terrifying new forms while under their power. I managed to speak.
It's worth noting that when the Force of Chaos initially attacked, it was fairly overwhelming. All the gods banded together, but halfway through, Nagash betrayed, and that's why Sigmar lost, which has already been gone through in the basis of this one. But after they lost and Sigmar went back into his realm, chaos spread all across the lands. Some realms fared better than others. Other realms got almost obliterated and turned into like chaos cesspits. It's only now in the Age of Sigmar that those realms are being retaken. But as Julius says, the touch of chaos found its way into the mortal realms through the tiniest cracks, took advantage of the people's desires and weaknesses among both the powerful and the poor. Some brave heroes stood against the forces of chaos but found themselves overrun and destroyed. Some cowering and hid, avoiding the attentions of the invaders as best they could. Others gave in to despair and the dark desires, throwing their lot in the chaos invaders and joining them. So yeah, the Age of Chaos is pretty messed up, unless you're chaos, in which case it was awesome. Although in many cases still pretty messed up, because chaos isn't exactly a fun, happy time to organise. Then we've got Death, Nagash, the god of death. Do you want to read that bit, Julia?
Nagash is a truly ancient being. Ancient being of incredible necromantic might. He is the jealous god of the dead. He is clad in hideous ancient armour and wreathed in soul-splitting energies. Was to look upon his towering skeletal form is to know the certainty of death and the pointlessness of hope. I did it in one go, kind of.
Awesome. When Nagash takes to the field of battle, he towers above his armies. A cloud of shrieking spirits swirl around him. In one hand he wields a vast skull-tipped staff that casts a deathly glow. In the other hand he gestures. With his other hand he gestures, and the ground beneath him erupts as hordes of skeletons burst forth and attack the foes. Even as his enemies fall to rusted blade and grasping claws, They rise once more to fight alongside those who have just slaughtered them. That's one of the reasons that Sigmar built the Stormcasters they do. They can't be risen from the dead because they get recycled. And it's one of the reasons that Nagash's armies are becoming ever stronger. He's basically the big bad guy in AOS, and we've got a nice bit here telling you about him, giving you an idea of who he is. It goes on to the second page there. Next we've got the Realms, Fury of the Reforged. We've got the Ovoid Thaumaturge there, which some of you may remember from the Warhammer Quest Silver Towers. That's a pretty badass looking guy. And one of the enemies of these guys. This one, I'm not going to read any of this because this is a quick story. But it's covering some battles between them and between the Storm hosts and the Zenshin forces there, and that's pretty awesome. I do like the stories, they're very good for inspirational stuff. Next we've got how to shade and layer with paints. This is going on the assumption that you're painting your Stormcast Eternals in gold, and then you use the Rakeland Flesh Shade to cover them. And basically what this does is this gives you a more three-dimensional look to your models. This one is recommended not gluing the models to the base. I already have, so it's too late for me. But you can see there how they add it in, and it works there. It's also gives you an idea of shading tide marks. You can get tide marks on these models, but they're fairly, when you paint things you can get brush marks, or if it's starting to dry it can give you little marks, and it goes through how to get rid of those. To fix these, repaint the area, thin Retributor armour.
No, down.
Once Retributor armour is dried, carefully reapply the coat of Rakeland Flesh Shade. It also recommends some dry brushing. One thing you can do is, if you're dry brushing over with the same colour you painted with in the first place, that can often hide a lot of the tide marks as well. So it's up to you. Then it has shade pooling, and what you do there is you pick. What you do there is, if you get too much shade pooling in, so you think it's going to make a mess, you dry the brush, clean it, and just dip it in there, and it will suck a lot of the paint out using something called capillary attraction. The next page is using the Stormcast Silver to dry brush over the models. You can see that raises a lot of the high points and makes it look pretty cool. If you've done too much dry brush, then you can just shade it down again with some thin down Rakeland Flesh Shade. The trick is to try and make sure you don't have too much on your paint, or you can just be very careful with the paint dry brush and just lay it over the edges. But yeah, you should have something looking like that by the time you've finished, so that's pretty cool. Next we have another battle. This one's going back to the small board. You can see me and Julie have already put a couple of battles up there. We enjoyed those, didn't we?
Yeah.
Especially because you won some of them.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that if you see some of the battles that I won, we replayed them just between us off of the camera, and it does balance out a lot better than some of the battles that happened on camera. We just got some atypical dice rolling there, but that's what happens. You've got a nice brief here, the scouring of the tombs. So you will need to lay your battle on a flat surface.
Max, doesn't matter, don't do it.
My 4-year-old child is beating up my pretty big dog. The kid's like 2 stone, the dog's 5 stone, yet the child's just, savaging it. You grab a coin or some other small token to use as a marker, because each of your models has 2 wounds. Start with secateurs and chain rasps on the barrel. Choose who will play sector and who will play chain rasps. Now, there we go. Sector's attack. Turn sequence. 1 movement. The secretaries do not move as they are already in combat with the chain wasps. Say what? No. Okay. So pile in, and you're basically running the same as previous. And then to wound. We haven't done to wound previously. If you've rolled a dice on the previous battles, it's counted as hit. You haven't had to roll to wound, so they're introducing the to wound roll. Pick up the successful hit dice and roll these dice again, and count the number of dice with a score of 3+. These wounds will cause damage, and then after that, the Secret of all Storm Smite Walls do 1 damage per success roll, and the Chain Rasp player is 1 Chain Rasp for every 1 damage. So that's fairly standard. I mean, it's pretty much the same. But, you know, we just have an additional set of rolls. So you do the same as you've done previously up to the to wound roll. You make an extra roll, and then after that, again, pretty much the same as you did previously. Same with the Chain Rasp. It's worth noting in this one they've included the movement in shadow just to indicate that a movement exists, but they haven't yet gone over movement or anything like that. And again, you go sector attack, Chain Rasp attack for a second time, and then after that you see whether you just rotate through it until you win. And there it's got the new part of the combat put in there. And at the back we've got new War Scrolls. War Scrolls are references for models, and we will expand these on future tutorials. So again, we've got the sectors, move 5 inches, damage, and you've got, instead of just 3+ to hit, you've got attacks 2 dice, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, 1 damage. And then with the Chain Rasp, attack 2 dice, 4+ to hit, 4+ to wound, 1 damage. So it's another layer in the combat that we haven't done before, and when we get a chance, me and Julie are probably going to try that out. We've still got a couple of other battles to run. You're enjoying the battles, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, if anybody's watching this is wondering, I have Tourette's. That's what the twitching is about. I'm not a mental person on drugs. Well, I am a mental person, and I am on drugs for being a mental person, but the twitching is Tourette's. Next issue, we've got the Celestar Baluster and Cantor Blue paint there. So that's the first war engine. That's going to be cool. And the Cantor Blue paint is a nice solid blue. And then the issue after that, we have Stormcast reinforcements, sectors and castigators. So 3 more sectors, 2 more castigators to build the squads up to a nice number. And that's going to be cool as well. So I'm just going to read issue 8 has on it Celestial Baluster, painted with Counter Blue and charging pay 3. So there's going to be another section of combat added there. And issue 9, Sectors and Castigators, discover the legions in the gash and new rules to play through. So there'll be some additional rules there. They're building up the rules each week. And frankly, I'm having fun learning them. I had a rough idea what they were anyway, but this is a bit more detailed, so I'm actually quite enjoying this. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and that's goodbye from me, and
goodbye.
See you guys next week. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.